The recent U.S.-Israeli war against Iran revealed just how weak Europe has become geopolitically, even though no major European country directly fought in the war. Europe was already struggling with energy dependence, industrial decline, and this grinding, horrible war in the Ukraine that seems to go on and continues to consume Ukrainian manpower and NATO resources. But the Iran war exposed something much bigger. It showed that the Eastern Front against Russia in the Ukraine is not an isolated regional conflict. It's actually part of a much longer geopolitical front stretching from Eastern Europe down into the Persian Gulf and across Eurasia itself. Hello, I'm Michael. This is Southern Realism, a channel about power, geopolitics, and decline. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer recently acknowledged that Europe faced war on two fronts. Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson called the Ukraine and Iran wars two fronts of the same war. This is being acknowledged now by a growing number of people on both the left and the right. Europe was already cut off from cheap Russian energy after the US blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. And then the European Union began cutting off other sources of Russian energy, making things even more difficult. But the Iran war showed that Iran, which is not a conventional military power by any stretch of the imagination, could still very effectively close the Strait of Hormuz and thereby threaten another major source of energy flowing into Europe. And that leaves Europe increasingly dependent on the United States and vulnerable to shifts in American policy and energy pricing. And that is a very dangerous position for Europe to be in. The Iran war also further pushed Russia, China, and Iran together. And that is an enormous Eurasian grouping, making up roughly 55% of the Asian landmass. So the deeper consequences of this terrible conflict might be the continued alignment of the Eurasian heartland into a more unified strategic bloc. Now, the limits of Western power have been exposed. Europe's vulnerability has been exposed. The true size of the Eastern Front has been revealed. And an enormous Eurasian geopolitical bloc is being formed in opposition to a weakened, deindustrializing, and increasingly vulnerable Europe.